Andrew Gosden. On the morning of September 14, 2007, a teenager named Andrew Gosden left his family home on Littlemore Lane in Balby, Doncaster, wearing a black Slipknot t-shirt and black jeans. He had changed out of his school uniform, put the uniform in the washing machine, walked to a cash machine, and withdrawn £200 from his account. He left behind his passport, approximately £100 in birthday money, and no note. He walked to Doncaster Station and purchased a one-way ticket to London King's Cross for £31.40. The ticket seller remembered him because she pointed out a return was only 50 pence more. He declined. CCTV captured Andrew leaving the Euston Road exit of King's Cross Station at 11:25 that morning, the last confirmed sighting of him. He was carrying his wallet, keys, a PSP handheld console without its charger, and a black canvas satchel covered in band patches. He was not carrying a mobile phone. He did not have an email address. Sony later confirmed his PSP had never connected to the internet. Andrew Gosden had no detectable online presence whatsoever. Andrew was a gifted, quiet teenager who lived with his parents Kevin and Glenys, both speech therapists, and his older sister Charlotte at Littlemore Lane. He had carried a 100% attendance record at Macaulay Catholic High School and was part of the Young, Gifted, and Talented program, placing him in the top 5% of school children in the entire United Kingdom. His teachers fully expected straight A's at GCSE. He was small for his age, about 5'3", wore strong prescription glasses, and was deaf in his left ear. His world centered on metal music bands like Slipknot, Him, and Funeral for a Friend, as well as video games, Harry Potter, and London's science and history museums. He had visited London before with family and was comfortable navigating the city. What he did not have was any digital footprint, no mobile phone, no email address, no social media accounts. Sony confirmed his PlayStation Portable had never been connected to the internet. In an era when most teenagers were building their lives online, Andrew Gosden was essentially invisible in the digital world, which made the investigation immeasurably harder. There were no messages to trace, no browsing history to examine, no online contacts to identify. The evening before his disappearance was entirely unremarkable. Dinner as a family, doing the dishes together, working on a jigsaw puzzle, watching comedies on television. Nothing was out of place. Nothing hinted at what the morning would bring. The initial police response drew significant criticism from the family and from independent reviewers. Andrew's school contacted his parents about his absence that afternoon, but mistakenly called the wrong family a mix-up that cost precious hours. By the time Kevin and Glenys realized Andrew had not been at school, the entire day had passed. Police were not called until around 7 in the evening. And then came the most damaging delay of all. CCTV footage from King's Cross Station was not reviewed for approximately 3 weeks. In that time, surrounding footage from London buses, the underground system, and nearby businesses had almost certainly been overwritten on their recording loops. Whatever Andrew did after he walked out of that station exit, wherever he went, whoever he may have met, was captured on cameras that no one checked in time. Kevin Gosden later described the handling as too slow, too chaotic, and disorganized. Over the first year, 122 possible sightings were reported from across Britain, 45 from London alone. The most credible placed a boy matching Andrew's description at a Pizza Hut on Oxford Street that same afternoon. A private sonar search of the River Thames in May 2011 found nothing connected to Andrew, though it did locate another body from an unrelated case. Andrew's DNA, fingerprints, and dental records were circulated to agencies nationwide. None produced a match. On December 8, 2021, 2 London men were arrested, the first arrests in the case. One was held on suspicion of kidnapping and trafficking. However, on September 20th, 2023, both were released without charge, with police stating they were confident neither man played any part in Andrew's disappearance. The case remains open and active under Detective Chief Inspector Andrew Knowles of South Yorkshire Police. In October 2024, a new age progression image was released, showing what Andrew might look like at 31 years old. In September 2025, police issued a public warning about disinformation circulating online about the case, a growing problem as amateur investigators and conspiracy theorists have attached themselves to Andrew's story over the years, sometimes causing real harm to the investigation and to the family. Kevin and Glenys Gosden still live in the same house on Littlemore Lane. They have never changed the locks in case Andrew comes home and still has his keys. They continue to add funds to his bank account, which has not been accessed since September 14, 2007. Kevin has spoken publicly and with extraordinary grace about wanting Andrew to know he is loved unconditionally, regardless of the reason he left or the circumstances he may be in. The family maintains contact through Missing People UK, case reference 07-019198, and Kevin writes regularly at a blog dedicated to the search. Andrew Paul Gosden would now be 32 years old. His parents have not stopped waiting. Andrew Gosden's family has waited 18 years without a single confirmed piece of information about what happened after he walked out of King's Cross Station. The next case involves a different kind of waiting, because in this one, the mother left a note saying her son would never be found. Timothy Pitson. On May 11, 2011, Amy Fry Pitson arrived at Greenman Elementary School in Aurora, Illinois, and checked out her son Timothy at approximately 8:15 in the morning, claiming a family emergency. Over the next 2 days, she took him to the Brookfield Zoo, the Key Lime Cove Water Park in Gurnee, and the Kalahari Resort in Wisconsin Dells, all captured on surveillance footage. The last confirmed image of Timothy was from the Kalahari checkout on May 13th at approximately 10 in the morning. Between roughly noon and 1:30 that afternoon, Amy made phone calls from the Sterling, Illinois area. She told Timothy's uncle, "Timothy is fine. Timothy belongs to me." Timothy was heard in the background saying he was hungry the last time anyone heard from him. By 7:25 that evening, Amy was seen alone at a store in Winnebago, buying a pen and notepaper. She checked into the Rockford Inn at 11:15. On May 14th, housekeeping found Amy deceased in her room. She had taken her own life. Her 5-sentence note stated that Timothy was somewhere safe with people who loved him and would care for him. It ended with the words, "You will never find him." Timothy was not in the room. Amy had a documented history of depression and had attempted to take her own life on at least 2 prior occasions, once parking her car on railroad tracks, once in another manner near a cliff. Her greatest fear, according to her sister Kara Jacobs, was losing custody of Timothy due to her mental health history. The marriage to Timothy's father, James, a manufacturing worker and Hodgkin's lymphoma survivor, had been under strain for years. James discovered in 2008 that Amy had been secretly contacting a former husband. Kara Jacobs later told investigators that Amy's entire world revolved around Timothy, and that losing him in a custody dispute was the one outcome she could not bear. Investigators later discovered Amy. Amy had made 2 unexplained trips to the Dixon and Sterling area of Illinois in February and March 2011, 2 and 3 months before Timothy's disappearance, suggesting she may have been scouting a location or making arrangements in advance. Forensic analysis of her Ford Expedition by Microtrace LLC found soil, grass, and an unusual mineral called anhydrite on the vehicle, narrowing a potential stop location to 6 counties in northwestern Illinois. Her cell phone was found on Route 78 in 2013, but yielded no further clues about where Timothy might have been taken. The imposter incident in April 2019, when Brian Reaney falsely claimed to be Timothy, re-traumatized the family before DNA exposed the deception within a day. Reaney was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison. Timothy's father, James, now living in Clinton, Iowa, has never given up. He wrote a public letter to his son. "The future is bright, and I look forward to spending time with you." He has kept Timothy's room ready. He has kept his son's name in the public eye through interviews, media appearances, and coordination with investigators. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released a new age progression image in May 2024, showing what Timothy might look like as a young adult. He turned 21 in October 2025. The family holds firmly to the belief that Amy left Timothy with someone she trusted, possibly in the Dubuque, Iowa area, and that he could be alive today, living under another name, unaware of his true identity or the father who is still waiting for him. Aurora police maintain a dedicated tip line at 630-256-5516. If Timothy is out there somewhere, his family wants him to know one thing above all else. They have never stopped looking for him, not for a single day. A mother's note said he would never be found. His father believes he is still alive. The next case shares that same unbearable uncertainty because a baby vanished from her crib in the middle of the night, and the investigation that followed became one of the most controversial in Florida history. Sabrina Eisenberg. On November 24, 1997, Marlene Eisenberg went to check on her youngest daughter, Sabrina, at their home in the Bloomingdale subdivision of Valrico, Florida, a middle-class community outside Tampa. Sabrina had been asleep in her crib at midnight. Between 6:22 and 6:42 the next morning, Marlene discovered the laundry room door to the garage was open. The garage door itself had been left up overnight, and Sabrina's crib was empty. The baby and her handmade blue and yellow blanket were gone. There was no forced entry, no ransom note, and the family dog had not barked. Marlene called 911 at 6:42. Up to 40 detectives per day worked the case at its peak. Investigators found 7 unidentified fingerprints inside and near the nursery, an unidentified blonde hair that did not match anyone in the household, and a shoe print near the crib that could not be attributed to any family member or visitor. The investigation eventually expanded to span 49 states and multiple countries, generating over 2,200 leads and 1,300 reported sightings. It cost approximately $2 million, making it the most expensive criminal investigation in Hillsborough County history at that time. Sabrina's father, Steve, was a real estate agent. Her mother, Marlene, ran an early childhood exercise program called Playtime Pals. Their 2 older children, William and Monica, were asleep in other rooms that night and heard nothing. The family dog, which normally barked at strangers, remained silent throughout whatever occurred. Police focused on the parents early in the investigation. Marlene's polygraph results were characterized as deceptive by the examiner, a finding the Eisenbergs vigorously disputed. In December 1997, just weeks after the disappearance, authorities obtained a court order and installed wiretap devices in the Eisenberg home. Over the course of approximately 3 months, they recorded 2,600 separate conversations between Steve, Marlene, family members, friends, and their attorneys. Prosecutors later claimed the tapes captured Steve making incriminating statements about harming the baby and Marlene saying the baby was gone. Those claims would become the foundation of a federal indictment, and then the foundation of one of the most spectacular prosecutorial collapses in Florida history. In September 1999, Steve and Marlene were indicted on conspiracy and false statement charges. But the case collapsed. U.S. District Judge Stephen Merriday found the recordings largely inaudible. Magistrate Judge Mark Pizzo issued a blistering opinion, finding that detectives had made false statements in the wiretap application and recklessly distorted the meaning of conversations. All charges were dropped in February 2001. The Department of Justice conceded the prosecution was vexatious and in bad faith, reportedly, the only such concession under the Hyde Amendment. The Eisenbergs were awarded approximately $1.5 million in defense costs. Sabrina has never been found, alive or deceased. She would be 28 years old. The Eisenbergs, now living in Maryland, have registered their DNA on ancestry sites, hoping for a match. Two women who came forward in 2017 and 2018 claiming to be Sabrina were both ruled out. In October 2025, a Tampa attorney won a legal battle to access case files after a judge found the sheriff's office in contempt for failing to produce public records. The case remains open. Somewhere, there may be a 28-year-old woman who does not know where she came from. A baby taken from her crib, an investigation derailed by its own misconduct, and a family still waiting after 28 years. The next case brought a different kind of breakthrough because after nearly 3 decades, DNA evidence finally pointed investigators toward the person they believe was responsible. Morgan Nick. On the evening of June 9, 1995, Colleen Nick took her daughter Morgan to a Little League game at Wofford Baseball Field in Alma, Arkansas. Around 10:30 that night, Morgan and friends ran off to catch fireflies near the field. At approximately 10:45, Morgan was last seen emptying sand from her shoes near her mother's car. Friends reported seeing a man speaking to Morgan. A red pickup truck with a white camper shell was seen nearby. Morgan was never seen again. She was a shy Girl Scout who loved pink, bubblegum, and making people laugh. She was the oldest of 3 children. Investigators spent decades pursuing over 10,000 leads. The critical suspect actually emerged early, but it took nearly 30 years to confirm the connection. Billy Jack Lynx, a World War II veteran and convicted offender, was arrested on August 29, 1995, just 12 weeks after Morgan's disappearance, for attempting to take a young girl at a Sonic restaurant in Van Buren, only 8 miles from the ballpark where Morgan was last seen. He was driving a 1986 red Chevrolet pickup, a vehicle that closely matched witness descriptions from the night Morgan vanished. Lynx was questioned specifically about Morgan on August 31, 1995, but was deemed to be answering truthfully and was released from the interview. He was convicted of a separate offense in 1996 and sentenced to prison, where he passed away on August 5, 2000. For the next 2 decades, no forensic link could be established between Lynx and Morgan. The truck changed hands and its trail went cold. In 2020, police located Lynx's truck with a new owner. The FBI Evidence Response Team examined it in July of that year, recovering hair and fibers. In December 2023, evidence was sent to Othram Laboratory in Texas for advanced DNA analysis. On September 27, 2024, Othram's results showed that hair from the truck belonged to Colleen Nick, one of her siblings, or one of her children. Since no family member had ever been inside that truck, the hair was almost certainly Morgan's. On October 1, 2024, Alma police officially upgraded Lynx from person of interest to suspect, the most significant development in the case in 29 years. Morgan has never been found. No one has been charged. Lynx passed away in 2000 and can never face justice. But the DNA confirmation was the first concrete forensic link in the history of the case. And it gave Colleen Nick something she had been working toward for nearly 3 decades. A name attached to what happened to her daughter. The June 2025 30th anniversary was marked by the Arkansas State Capitol building being illuminated in pink, Morgan's favorite color. The Arkansas House of Representatives adopted Resolution 1063 in April 2025, honoring the Morgan Nick Foundation and its 3 decades of work. Colleen Nick founded the Morgan Nick Foundation in 1996, 1 year after her daughter vanished. In the decades since, the foundation has helped locate over 1,000 missing persons per year in partnership with Arkansas State Police. Arkansas's Amber Alert system is named in Morgan's honor. Colleen has served on the board of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and co-founded Team Hope with Patty Wetterling, another mother who lost a child and turned that loss into a lifetime of advocacy. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee reflected publicly on Colleen's impact, calling her one of the most extraordinary people he has ever known. She took the worst thing that can happen to a parent and built something from it that has brought hundreds of other families the answers she herself may never receive. A mother who lost her daughter built a foundation that finds other people's children. The next case has stretched across 34 years and 2 countries, from Sheffield, England, to a Greek island where a family went looking for a fresh start and came home without their youngest member. Ben Needham. On July 24, 1991, Carrie Needham left her toddler son Ben with his grandparents at a farmhouse in the mountain village of Iraklis on the Greek island of Kos. The extended Needham family from Sheffield, England, had moved to Kos for a fresh start. Eddie and Stephen Needham, Ben's grandfather and uncle, were renovating a derelict building. Carrie worked as a waitress at a nearby hotel. Ben had been playing with toy cars in and around the building site. His uncle Stephen left on his motorbike at approximately 2:30 in the afternoon. Within minutes, his grandmother Christine noticed the toddler was gone. No trace was found. The temperature was approximately 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The Greek police response was widely criticized at every level by the family, by British consular officials, and by independent observers who reviewed the case years later. Officers initially treated the Needham family as suspects rather than victims, delaying formal notification to airports and docks across the Greek islands by 2 full days, a window in which a small child could have been taken off the island by ferry or private boat without any record. Witness statements were handwritten in Greek with no professional translator present, meaning the English-speaking family could not verify the accuracy of what was being recorded. Searches by police, army, and firefighters covered the surrounding area over 11 days, but found no trace of the toddler. The island's chief of police eventually conceded publicly that they believed they had searched every possible part of the area. But by then, the critical first hours had long since passed. For 20 years, the Needham family campaigned for a proper investigation. In 2012, South Yorkshire Police launched Operation Ben after the Home Office granted £700,000 for the inquiry. Attention focused on Konstantinos Dino Barkas, a digger operator who had been working near the farmhouse on the day Ben disappeared. Barkas reportedly told someone the morning after that he had heard a sound but assumed it was a dog. The implication that Ben may have wandered into the path of heavy machinery became the working theory for investigators. But Barkas passed away from stomach cancer in 2015, before South Yorkshire Police could take a formal recorded statement from him. Whatever he knew or did not know went with him. In September and October 2016, a major 3-week excavation on Kos sifted through over 800 tons of soil from the area around the farmhouse. The most significant find was a yellow dinky toy car that the family identified as belonging to Ben, a piece of his childhood, found buried in the earth where he had last been playing. Forensic analysis at the James Hutton Institute in Scotland found a profile on a sandal fragment that was indicative of human decomposition. The family braced themselves. But in November 2018, DNA analysis confirmed the biological material was not Ben's, a result that devastated the family while simultaneously reopening the question of what actually happened that day. Carrie Needham strongly disputes the accident theory, citing what she considers a critical timing discrepancy. She maintains the digger did not arrive at the farmhouse until approximately 4:30 to 5 in the afternoon, roughly 2 hours after Ben was last seen playing in the yard. If that timeline is correct, the machinery was not present when Ben disappeared, and the accident theory collapses entirely. Carrie believes her son was taken from the island, possibly trafficked, and may be alive somewhere today, perhaps in the United States. In 2024, she made the extraordinary decision to uproot her life entirely, relocating from Sheffield to Turkey near the coastal town of Bodrum, which sits just a 30-minute ferry ride from Kos to be physically closer to the place where her son was last seen. A Danish man who came forward in 2024, believing he might be Ben, was ruled out by DNA testing in September of that year. Another hope raised and then gently lowered. In July 2025, police were actively investigating a tip from a person in the United States who claimed to have seen Ben at a church in America in 1991 or 1992, shortly after his disappearance. South Yorkshire Police's official position remains that, on the balance of probabilities, Ben passed away on the day he went missing. Carrie does not accept that conclusion. She has spent 34 years searching moving countries, following every lead, refusing to give up. Ben would now be 36 years old. His mother has never stopped looking for him. Carrie Needham moved to another country to be closer to the island where her son vanished 34 years ago. The next case comes from the other side of the world, rural Australia, where a toddler in a Spider-Man suit disappeared from a yard in broad daylight, and a decade-long investigation has yet to produce a single charge. William Tyrrell. On September 12, 2014, a foster family was visiting the foster grandmother's house on Benaroon Drive in Kendal, a small town in New South Wales, Australia. The house sat directly across from Kendal State Forest. The youngest foster child, a toddler wearing his beloved Spider-Man suit, was playing hide-and-seek with his foster sister in the front yard. Two unidentified vehicles, a white station wagon and a gray sedan, were noted parked nearby by neighbors. At approximately 10:25 in the morning, the foster mother went inside to make tea. She heard the child imitating a tiger's roar while running around the side of the house. Then there was silence. Within 5 minutes, she was searching. He was gone. Detection dogs, among the most reliable tools available in the critical early hours of a missing persons case, were brought to the scene and tracked the child's scent only within the boundaries of the yard itself, not a single meter beyond. That finding has haunted every investigator who has worked this case. If the child had wandered away from the property on foot into the surrounding bushland, down the street toward the state forest, the dogs should have been able to follow a trail leading in that direction. They found nothing of the kind. The scent stopped cleanly at the edge of the yard, as though the child had been physically lifted from the ground and placed into a vehicle. It is the single most significant piece of forensic evidence in the entire case, and it has never been satisfactorily explained by any theory that does not involve the child being taken by another person. The investigation that followed, designated Strike Force Roseanne, became one of the largest and most resource-intensive in New South Wales history. Over 690 persons of interest were identified and examined. More than 1,000 formal interviews were conducted. Over 15,000 individual pieces of evidence were cataloged, analyzed, and cross-referenced. The NSW government announced a record $1 million reward for information in 2016, the largest ever offered in the state for a missing persons case. Despite all of this, no one has been charged. The case became a cautionary tale about investigative missteps as much as an unsolved disappearance. The first major person of interest was a local tradesman named Bill Spedding, who was investigated extensively in the early stages. He was ultimately cleared he had been demonstrably elsewhere that morning. But the investigation's focus on Spedding came at a significant cost. In December 2022, a court awarded Spedding approximately $1.5 million, later increased to roughly $1.8 million on appeal after finding that the lead detective's pursuit of him had been malicious. That detective, Gary Jubelin, had led the investigation with extraordinary intensity, but crossed legal boundaries in doing so. He was convicted and fined $10,000 for unlawfully recording conversations with another person of interest during the inquiry. A convicted offender named Frank Abbott, who lived 10 to 12 kilometers from Kendall and was unable to provide an alibi for the morning of September 12th, was also investigated following testimony from an associate. In November 2021, the investigation shifted to the foster mother herself. Police developed a theory that the child may have been harmed in an accidental fall from a balcony, and that the foster mother had concealed what happened. A month-long search of the Kendall area found no remains. The foster mother was charged with giving false information to the NSW Crime Commission in April 2022, but was found not guilty in November of that year. In June 2023, police recommended additional charges, but the Director of Public Prosecutions effectively suspended its advice. By September 2024, the foster mother has consistently and firmly denied any involvement. No one has been charged in this case. The child is presumed to have passed, but no remains have been found. A coronial inquest before Deputy State Coroner Harriet Graham closed evidence in December 2024, with findings expected in early 2026. The $1 million reward remains active. William Tyrrell would now be 14 years old. His case remains Australia's most prominent and most heartbreaking missing persons investigation. A toddler in a Spider-Man suit vanished from a yard in broad daylight, and after a decade of investigation, no one has been held accountable. If you've made it this far and enjoy deep dives into the most shocking criminal cases, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to press the bell icon. The next case unfolded with similar speed and similar heartbreak at a public park in New Jersey on an ordinary September afternoon. Dulce Maria Alaves. On September 16, 2019, Noema Alaves Perez took her daughter Dulce, her younger son Manuel, and her sister to Bridgeton City Park in Bridgeton, New Jersey. A small city in Cumberland County with a significant Mexican immigrant population. Noema had stopped for ice cream on the way. She parked the car and let the children run approximately 30 yards to the playground while she remained in the vehicle. After 5 to 10 minutes, Manuel returned to the car alone, crying. He reportedly told his mother that somebody had called for his sister. Girls playing basketball nearby reported seeing a man pass by and Dulce running toward red maintenance buildings near the playground. Noema called 911 at 4:51 in the afternoon. An Amber Alert was issued the following evening describing a light-skinned, possibly Hispanic male in orange sneakers, red pants, and a black shirt, who was seen leading Dulce toward a red van with a sliding door and tinted windows. A composite sketch of a second man described as a possible witness rather than a suspect was released on October 15, 2019. Neither individual has ever been identified. Dulce was placed on the FBI's Most Wanted Missing Persons list. The reward for information stands at $75,000. Over 300 law enforcement officers from the Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office, the FBI, and the New Jersey State Police have worked the case over the past 6 years. But the investigation has been significantly and persistently hampered by a factor that has nothing to do with evidence or suspects' deep-seated immigration fears within the surrounding community. Bridgeton has a large undocumented immigrant population, many of whom were present at or near the park on the afternoon Dulcie vanished. Potential witnesses, people who may have seen the man, the van, or something else that could break the case open, were reluctant or outright unwilling to come forward and speak with law enforcement out of fear that any contact with police or federal agents would lead to questions about their own immigration status. Authorities repeatedly and publicly pledged not to question witnesses about their status. But the fear ran deeper than any official promise could reach. That wall of silence around the park may be the single greatest obstacle this investigation has faced. Cryptic, anonymous letters sent to locations in Austintown, Ohio in 2020 led to searches that found nothing. False social media posts claiming Dulcie had been found have been debunked multiple times, re-traumatizing the family with each cycle of false hope. Noema, who was 19 and pregnant at the time of the disappearance, has faced intense public scrutiny, much of it unfair for remaining in the car while her children played. Dulce's father, Edgar Perez, had been deported to Mexico in 2018 and was not present. In September 2025, the New Jersey State Police Special Investigations Section assigned new investigators to the case and began using artificial intelligence to scan the massive case files for missed connections. Cumberland County Prosecutor Jennifer Webb McRae stated publicly that in the absence of evidence confirming otherwise, investigators continue to hold out hope that Dulcie is alive. Dulcie Maria Alaves would now be 11 years old. Tips can be submitted to the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI, option 4, then 8. A child vanished from a public playground on a September afternoon, and 6 years later, not a single person seen near that park has been identified. The next case carried the same agonizing uncertainty for 5 years until a tip from an unlikely source led investigators to a desert grave and a name they had been searching for all along. Isabel Celis. On the night of April 20th, 2012, Isabel Celis was put to bed at her family's home in Midtown Tucson, Arizona, after returning from a baseball game. Her father, Sergio, went to wake her the next morning at approximately 8 o'clock for her softball game and found her bed empty. Her oldest brother discovered the bedroom window wide open and the screen removed, propped against the outside wall. Sergio called 911. Isabel, known to her family as Isa, was the youngest of 3 siblings. She loved Little League softball. Her brother described her as a goof who just wanted to be part of whatever everyone else was doing. Police initially focused on the parents. Sergio's 911 call was noted for its calm tone. He was subjected to polygraph examinations and was temporarily separated from his sons by Child Protective Services. Writings found in a closet drew scrutiny, though the defense later established these were song lyrics and childhood scrawlings, not evidence of anything sinister. Over 250 law enforcement personnel searched a 2.5-mile radius around the home. More than 2,200 tips came in. None led to Isabel. The actual perpetrator was someone who had been living just 2 miles from the Celis home and who should never have been free. Christopher Matthew Clements was a convicted offender with a criminal record spanning 4 states, a record that included offenses against vulnerable people and a pattern of escalating behavior that should have kept him behind bars far longer than it did. He had been released from federal prison in March 2012, just weeks before Isabel's disappearance, and had registered at an address in the Tucson area. Cell phone records that investigators would later obtain showed his phone pinging near the Celis house at 7:39 on the evening of April 20th, the night Isabel was put to bed, and near the eventual burial site in the desert during the early morning hours of April 21st. The break came in February 2017, when Clements' then fiancée, Melissa Stark, called the FBI and told them Clements knew where Isabel was buried. He had instructed her to dig up a plastic bag in their yard that contained a paper with Isabel's name written in his handwriting. On March 3rd, 2017, 5 years after the disappearance, Clements led FBI agents to a desert area near Avra Valley Road, where they recovered a small skull and bones. DNA confirmed the remains were Isabel's. The medical examiner ruled the manner of passing as homicide. The first trial in February 2023 ended in a hung jury. At the retrial in February 2024, prosecutors presented cell tower data, the handwritten note, disturbing internet searches found on Clements' devices, and over 1,300 images of young girls recovered from his electronics. On February 29, 2024, the jury found Clements guilty on all counts. He was sentenced on April 10th to natural life in prison without the possibility of release, plus consecutive terms stacked on top of a prior natural life sentence he had already received for the taking of another young person in the Tucson area. In October 2024, the Arizona Court of Appeals rejected his appeal in that earlier case. At sentencing, Sergio Celis addressed the court directly. "Until the day I die, I will feel responsible for not doing my job and protecting my little girl." Those words carry a weight that no verdict can lift. Clements also made reference to additional remains buried in the desert. Only 2 have been identified. Isabel Mercedes Celis was laid to rest 12 years after she was taken from her bedroom. Her family finally knows what happened. That knowledge came at an unimaginable cost. It took 5 years, a tip from a fiancé, and a piece of paper with a name on it to find Isabel Celis. The next case has now stretched past 16 years, and the one person investigators believe holds the answer has refused to provide it. Holly Cummings. On the evening of February 9th, 2009, Ronald Cummings left for his night shift as a crane operator, leaving his 2 young children in the care of his 17-year-old live-in girlfriend, Misty Croslin, at their trailer on Green Lane in Satsuma, Putnam County, Florida. Misty said she put both children to bed around 8 in the evening. At approximately 3 in the morning, Misty said she woke to find the back kitchen light on, the rear door slightly open, the screen door propped with a cinder block, and Haley gone. The younger child was still in bed. Misty called Ronald, who told her to call 911 immediately. Ronald's call to the dispatcher was frantic and anguished. Holly had been diagnosed with Turner syndrome, a chromosomal condition that required monthly visits to specialists. Her mother, Crystal Sheffield, lived separately and had visitation every other weekend. Ronald had gained full custody after Crystal acknowledged substance issues. There was no sign of forced entry at the trailer. Tracking dogs followed a scent trail from the home toward the nearby St. Johns River, and then the trail ended. Misty Croslin became the central figure in the investigation almost immediately, and has remained so for 16 years. Her statements to police were described by investigators as consistently inconsistent. She changed details about where the children were sleeping, about her own movements during the night, and about her timeline of when she woke up and what she found. Each time she was interviewed, the story shifted. She failed 4 separate polygraph examinations and 1 voice stress analysis test. Investigators became convinced she was withholding critical information, but they could not compel her to tell the truth. And nothing she said under questioning was consistent enough to build a case around. On March 12th, 2009, exactly 1 month after Hallie vanished, Misty married Ronald Cummings in a ceremony that drew national media attention and widespread public criticism. They divorced in October of that year. Misty's brother, Tommy Croslin, eventually told his attorney a version of events: that their cousin Joe Overstreet, visiting from Tennessee, had come to the trailer looking for a firearm. When it was not there, Overstreet harmed Holly and made Tommy help transport her body to a boat ramp on the St. Johns River, where she was weighted down and placed in the water. Their grandmother, Flora Hollers, corroborated this account in interviews. However, extensive searches of the river, including sonar and dive teams, found nothing. Overstreet was never charged. In 2019, the lead detective publicly stated that investigators believed Holly may have been accidentally harmed by prescription substances and that her body was placed in the river to conceal what happened. In January 2010, Misty, Ronald, Tommy, and others were arrested in a trafficking sting involving over 300 prescription pills. Misty was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Ronald received 15 years. Investigators hoped the lengthy sentences would pressure Misty into revealing what she knew about Haley. More than 16 years later, she has not done so. Misty Croslin remains at Lowell Correctional Institution with a projected release date of June 10, 2031. Investigators still call her the key to this case. Ronald was released in October 2022 but was arrested again on Christmas Day on separate charges and sentenced to additional time. A $15,000 Crime Stoppers reward remains active. Holly Ann Marie Cummings would now be 22 years old. She has never been found. One person is believed to know the truth about what happened to Holly Cummings. She has chosen not to share it. The final case on this list is different from every other because it is the one that ended with a rescue. After 18 years of captivity, a woman was found alive. And her story is proof that even the most improbable outcomes can sometimes happen. J.C. Dugard. On June 10, 1991, J.C. Lee Dugard was walking to her school bus stop in Myers, California, a rural community near South Lake Tahoe that her family had chosen because they believed it was safe. She was wearing her favorite pink outfit. A gray car approached. Philip Garrido fired a stun device from the window. His wife Nancy pulled the unconscious child into the back seat, removed her clothing, and covered her with a blanket for the 3-hour, 120-mile drive to their property at 1554 Walnut Avenue in Antioch, California. J.C.'s stepfather, Carl Probin, witnessed the abduction from near their home and chased the vehicle on a bicycle. He could not keep up. For 18 years, J.C. Dugard was held in a compound of tents, sheds, and lean-tos, concealed behind an 8-foot fence that created a hidden backyard within the Garrido property, a space invisible from the street and from the main house. She was initially confined in a tiny, soundproofed shed. She was harmed repeatedly, beginning 1 week after her kidnapping. The harm continued regularly for the first 3 years of her captivity and intermittently thereafter. She gave birth to 2 daughters, fathered by Philip Garrido, the first when she was 14, the second at 17. She delivered both children without any medical assistance. She never saw a doctor, a dentist, or any medical professional for the entire 18 years of her captivity. The children were taught that Nancy Garrido was their mother. J.C. was given the name Alyssa and instructed never to reveal her real identity to anyone, under any circumstances. She lived in a world of roughly 100 square feet, separated from everything and everyone she had ever known. Philip Garrido was a convicted kidnapper. In 1976, he had taken a 25-year-old woman and harmed her for hours. He was sentenced to 50 years federal, but was paroled after serving just 11 years. In 1988, 3 years before he took J.C. His parole supervision represented one of the most catastrophic failures in California history. The state's Inspector General later found Garrido was properly supervised for only 12 out of 123 months, a 90% failure rate. Parole officers made at least 60 home visits to the property without ever discovering the hidden compound. In 2006, A neighbor called 911 to report women and children living in tents behind the house. A deputy spoke to Garrido in the front yard and left. His GPS ankle bracelet showed repeated visits to the backyard. No one examined the data. The rescue came on August 26, 2009, 18 years and 2 months after the abduction. 2 days earlier, Garrido had brought his 2 daughters to the University of California, Berkeley, to ask about hosting a religious event on campus. His behavior was unusual, enough that it caught the attention of 2 people whose instincts may have saved JC's life. Special events manager Lisa Campbell and campus police officer Allie Jacobs found Garrido's demeanor suspicious. He was accompanied by 2 young girls who seemed uncomfortable and controlled, and they ran a background check that revealed he was a registered offender on active parole. They alerted his parole office. On August 26th, Garrido reported to his parole officer as scheduled, but this time he was accompanied by Nancy, the 2 girls, and a woman he introduced as Alyssa. When parole agents confronted him with the results of the background check and the questions it raised about the girls in his company, Philip Garrido confessed to the kidnapping. It was only then, after 18 years, 2 months, and 16 days, that JC revealed her real name. She was 29 years old. She had been missing since she was 11. Both Garridos pleaded guilty in April 2011. Philip was sentenced to 431 years to life. Nancy received 36 years to life. JC's written victim statement, read by her mother, Terry Probin, included the words, "I chose not to be here today because I refuse to waste another second of my life in your presence." The state of California approved a $20 million settlement for JC in 2010, acknowledging the catastrophic supervision failures that allowed her captivity to continue for nearly 2 decades. She published 2 memoirs, A Stolen Life and Freedom. My Book of Firsts, and founded the JAYC Foundation, which provides trauma recovery services, equine therapy, and law enforcement training. The foundation's name stands for Just Ask Yourself to Care. JC Lee Dugard is now 45 years old. She lives privately in California with her 2 daughters, who are now in their late 20s and early 30s. Both have attended college. JC maintains a quiet public presence and continues running the JAYC Foundation, turning the worst experience imaginable into something that helps others heal. Philip Garrido remains imprisoned, serving what amounts to a life sentence. Nancy Garrido will become eligible for parole in August 2029, a date the Dugard family is watching closely. JC Dugard's story is the rarest kind, the one where someone comes home. It is proof that even after 18 years, even when the world has moved on and the case has gone cold, and the hope has thinned to almost nothing, the most improbable outcome is still possible. For the families of Andrew Gosden, Timothy Pitson, Sabrina Eisenberg, Ben Needham, William Tyrrell, Dulcie Maria Alaves, and Holly Cummings, that possibility is what keeps them going. It is what keeps the lights on and the locks unchanged and the phone lines open. Because somewhere, someone might know something. And one day, they might decide to share it. This was all from our side today. Thanks for watching. Click here to check out another video.